Well, good morning, my friends, and welcome back. Cumberland Outdoorsman out here in the woods. This is late June, and I've been wanting to come out here to see if I could find some wild edible mushrooms, particularly the Golden Chanterelles, which is my personal favorite. And if I can find some, maybe we'll do a catch and cook video here. So anyway, I got my mesh bag here in my pocket. Got my pocket knife, and temperatures are a little bit cooler now, so it'll be a little bit more comfortable to come out here and gather some mushrooms. So come along with me. Maybe we'll find some, and then at the end of the video, well, there's a deer down there blowing at me. At the end of the video, we'll go in the kitchen and we'll fix some of these mushrooms. Show you one of my favorite recipes. Well, friends, I'm finding a few of these. I've already found enough for one little mess there, but I just wanted to show you that on the ground where you find them, they're not that hard to spot. They're not like morels. You know, morels are kind of hard to find because they blend in. These here show up pretty readily. Like that right there. And even under these leaves, you can see that yellow poking out. There's some more there. And there's another one right there. So I'm going to gather these up. Now this is in a location where I found them year after year. You know, it's one of those places that you want to keep in the back of your mind. If you ever run across any, you're out in the woods and you want to come back the next couple of years, look in those same locations. As long as you had pretty good rainfall recently, then these mushrooms should pop up. You know, now this past couple of weeks we've had some rain, in fact some torrential rain come through the area, but these look like they're starting to dry up a little bit. Let me show you an example of that. Got one here that I just harvested, and even though it's still viable, if I can get it out of the sack here. Okay, there you can see the bottom of that is still pretty fresh looking, but around the edges you can see where it started to dry up. That's still good. I mean, you can still eat that, but when it gets like this, you better get out in the woods in a hurry because it doesn't take them long to dry up. A few hot, dry days and they're gone, you know. So I'm out here this morning to gather up what I can find and harvest a few for a good meal. So let me go ahead and get these. There's an example of mushrooms in their prime. They're nice and fresh, not eaten up by bugs. That's what we're looking for. Nice, pretty, bright yellow mushrooms. Now, one tip that I can give you if you want to come out and collect mushrooms, you know, edible mushrooms, is first of all, get you a good field guide so that you know what you're getting. Never eat anything unless you're 100% sure of what you're harvesting. And also, once you find a good batch of these mushrooms, like this right here, you see a little cluster of them? You're down on your knees to harvest them anyway. You need to scan the area and look around. Right here, I just spotted some more. Right there. And then over there, there's a pretty good cluster of them. That's the way they grow, you know. And they're easily spotted on the forest floor. There's some more right there. I just saw those. Well, let's see. Yeah, there's right there, poking out through the leaves there. So I'm going to scan the entire area here as I harvest these, because once you find them, it usually leads to more and more. So let me go ahead and grab these guys up and plop them in the bag. Beautiful. Pretty mushrooms. Okay guys, here on the base of these trees, we're seeing a lot of these mushrooms that are starting to dry up, just like I said. Still edible. There you can see how the tops have turned kind of a dark orange. And then you've got some fresh ones growing right alongside there. Here's some right at the base of my feet. Now this is an area that I collected last year, and I got tons of mushrooms here. There's some more growing right there, and I'm sure there's more on up the hill here. But we'll gather some of these, and I think then we're going to head on in and do a little cooking. Okay, my friends, let me just take a moment to show you the characteristics of these mushrooms in case you decide to go out and gather some of these for yourself. The Golden Chanterelles, which are my favorites, are these right here. That's a perfect example of it. I'll give you a nice close-up there. As you can see, the gills are not really gills. They're more like flattened branches that taper down into the stalk of the mushroom. The bottoms are solid. You want to avoid the hollow ones. You know, if they have a perfectly formed hollow bottom, then what you've probably got is something called a jack-o'-lantern, which is pretty much inedible. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone dying from eating jack-o'-lanterns, but I have heard that once they consumed them, they wish they never have because they cause a lot of digestive problems. But either way, that's one that's easily recognizable as the Golden Chanterelle. When they're younger, like this right here, they form kind of a button or a rounded top, but yet underneath you can see those branches. Now that's not the same as the smooth chanterelle, which is also edible, but as they get older they flare out into these trumpet shapes, like this one here. And then if you find one that's kind of dried up around the edges, don't worry about that so much. You can trim that right off. Take your pocket knife and trim that right off. And you can eat them. This one here is still in real good shape. It still feels moist. It's not completely dried up. just around the edges a little bit. But anyway, I'm spotting a few more as I'm scanning around here, so let me gather those up. Well, all right, guys, got a pretty good bag of them here. This is actually enough for a couple of servings, and although some of them are a little bit dried up, they're still viable. I got some real good ones in here anyway, but there you can see that's one that was a little bit dried up and I kept it. But along with the fresh ones, they'll do quite well. There's another one that's started to dry up a little bit, but still good, you know, good to eat. And then some of them are ultra fresh, and I'm seeing a lot of little ones still coming out. So if we get some more rain, which I'm pretty sure we will in the next week or so, the other ones will pop up and I'll come out here and get some more. Here's some smaller ones, as you can see, but they're all still good, you know, good to eat. Got a lot of flavor, and the smell of them is just wonderful. I mean, has a real earthy tone with a little bit of apricot mixed in. Hard to explain really what they smell like exactly, but they have just a really nice fresh smell to them. I wish I could relay that to you folks, and like I say, you know, there's nothing like wild harvested plants, mushrooms, and also game animals. That's something that I always enjoy every year, and I would think that these would go good with some venison, you know, like maybe in a stew, like venison stew. Cook them up with some onions and cook up some fresh venison. I think they'd be wonderful. So anyway, folks, follow me into the kitchen, and we'll see if we can't whip up a few of these with some sweet onions and some scrambled eggs. Okay, my friends, here we are back in the kitchen, out of the woods, and before I started this recipe here, I went ahead and made some bacon, and that's going to go along with our dish here. And what we're going to need are some eggs. I like these country eggs. Neighbor down the road, he's got chickens, and I always get my eggs from them because to me they just taste better. They're richer, and I don't care if they're brown, because I mean, look at those eggs. That's some nice sized eggs. But I just like the taste of country eggs better, and I think they're better for you. Also, we're going to use some butter. This is Vital Farms butter, and I like this or Carrie's Gold butter the best because it's real grass-fed butter. And of course, we got our mushrooms. I went ahead and cleaned these up. Nice and clean. Look how nice and fresh they are. And when you cut them open, I'll show you a couple of examples here. When you cut the bottom off of the mushroom here, it'll appear white like that. Okay? That's nice and solid white. And when you slice it in half, a golden chanterelle is white on the inside like that. Pure white. Even the little ones. You know, if you get a small one like this, cut these little guys in half, the flesh should look fairly bright like that. It's not orange throughout like this top here, you know, like the top of the mushroom. And you know, let me just say, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're gathering, then get with an expert, somebody that knows how to identify wild mushrooms. Don't take the chance, folks, but these I'm absolutely 100% sure of. And that's the reason I'm showing you this, because they're abundant in eastern woodlands, especially from Florida all the way up into Canada. And if you can identify them positively and you find them, believe me, you're going to like them. You know, if you like mushrooms or any kind of wild foraging food. So let me go ahead and get started here. What we're also going to need is 1 or 2 small onions. I've already got some here that have been diced up. These are yellow onions. That's just to accentuate the flavor of the mushroom. So let me pan down here to the skillet, and we'll go ahead and put our mushrooms and onions on and let them saute. I know people will say, well, butter is butter, but not really, folks. Some so-called butters have oils impregnated into the butter, and they're not really 100% pure butter. Some of them use seed oils, and that's something I'm trying to get away from. I'm going to make up enough for a few servings because my wife and grandson said they'd like to have some. There's a nice big one. Look at that. Big meaty one there. See how nice and white that is on the inside? Solid throughout. Beautiful. I can smell the butter cooking with the mushrooms, and it's absolutely heavenly, let me tell you. Now here's one of those that I trimmed the top off of because it was dried up. But still, look how much meat you still got in that mushroom. I've been doing this for a long time, and trust me, I know what I'm talking about with these wild mushrooms. Okay, once you got all your mushrooms in the skillet, you got them spread out, you want to put some onions in there. Not much, that's enough really. You don't want to take away too much flavor from the mushrooms. And we'll want these to cook down thoroughly before we put our eggs in. Okay, my friends, they're just about done. One thing I should mention is once they get to this stage where they're cooked down some in that butter, this is a good time to preserve them. You know, what you want to do is let them cool off a little bit, and then you can seal them in plastic freezer bags and put them in the freezer, and they'll keep their integrity just like that. And later on, you can take them out, thaw them out, and they'll cook up. Put a little bit of butter in there with them. They cook up just fine. But these are just about done. We'll leave them in there just a little bit longer. Really let them cook through. In the meanwhile, I'll go ahead and scramble some of these eggs up. Okay, while I'm getting my eggs ready, and these are finishing up cooking, I'd like to put a little bit of half and half in there. What that does is it kind of evens out the flavor, gives them kind of a creamy flavor as well. All right. All right, guys, that's kind of caramelized a little bit at the bottom, which is exactly what I want. And we'll put a little bit more butter in there. Keep our eggs from sticking. Okay, now butter's melted in there. Time to add the eggs. I'll go ahead and shut this off because it won't take long for these eggs to cook. I don't want them to overcook. I want all this to be nice and fluffy. Well, my friends, there it is. That's the wild chanterelles that we got out of the woods this morning, cooked up fresh here in the kitchen with a little recipe that I came up with. I think I read about this in a Sports Afield magazine as well. You can salt it to taste. I put a little salt and pepper on mine. And we'll give it a little taste test here. That's a flavor I'm very well familiar with. Golden Chanterelles. Can't beat it. So thanks a lot for coming along. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you gained any helpful tips from it, just remember, the one piece of advice that I'd like to give you folks is make absolutely sure, first of all, that you know what you're harvesting. And then just follow the steps. You can use these mushrooms in other recipes like stews and roasts, things like that. I'm sure there's a lot of different recipes for these mushrooms, but this is one of my favorites. So thanks again for coming along, and remember, if you like to go hunting, fishing, camping, shooting, hiking, no matter what your outdoor pursuit happens to be, I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. But also remember this, hit that like button, smash the bell icon, and subscribe. That way you'll know when more videos like this will be coming your way. So until next time, y'all take good care of yourselves, get out there and enjoy the great outdoors. I'll see you.